Hey, so I was thinking about some of the first terrain that I ever made. My favourite was a Wood Elf Waystone, and I made it with my dad. Well, he made it and I painted it. That waystone was made using an old foam sanding block and an electric carving knife. Both of those things were my dad's idea. The original tutorial I was inspired by used XPS insulation foam, but at the time that was really hard to find in Australia, so we had to improvise. What I really like about my dad is he's a jack of all trades. He knows a little bit of everything. That's what makes him really good at problem solving. That foam from the sanding block and XPS foam are totally different materials. They both have their own strengths and weaknesses. The sanding block had to be cut with an electric knife, which is an inconvenience, but it's also flexible and resistant to damage, which is awesome because it's going to be thrown in a box for storage. The electric knife left marks on the surface and gave it raggedy edges, which would normally be a downside, but for this application it was perfectly fine. That moment with my dad making the waystone taught me something really valuable, that there are many solutions to every problem. Sometimes you've just got to get creative. Shortly after that, I made brick walls inspired by my hobby idol, Mini Wargamer Dave. At that point, all our sanding blocks were also a piece of terrain, so I had to find another alternative to XPS foam. Just like my dad always did, I went hunting around our shed trying to find something else to use. Eventually, I found some white foam in an old box. I remember asking my dad if white foam would work, and instead of a yes or a no or an educated guess like he would normally give me, he gave me something far more valuable. He said, "You should try it." Which was shortly followed by, "But don't cut your fucking fingers off." Now, the reason I bring up this story was about 2 months ago, a patron of mine, Jake, wanted to know more about the decision making in my tutorials. Things like how I decide what materials to use, my color choices, and how I go from an idea to a plan. After thinking about this for 2 long months, writing thousands of words and deleting them all, I think the answer is simply giving things a go. Sometimes they'll work and sometimes they won't. But every time you try something different, you learn something new. I think in my time in the hobby, the moments where I've learned the most valuable stuff hasn't been from following tutorials step by step. It's been from experimenting and trying things where I don't know what the outcome will be. So, in the spirit of that, the other night I locked myself in my workshop and I made brick walls until the sun came up. I used all my brain power to come up with 10 different walls, and every wall was in a different style, trying something new I'd never done before. Each one taught me something totally unexpected, and some have even inspired future projects. Out of the 10 walls I made and all the time I spent making them, there's probably 2 or 3 I'll ever make again. But that's not important. From making those 10 brick walls, I taught myself, at the very least, 10 new things. And next time in the future, when I have a problem I'm not sure how to solve, maybe because of those walls, I'll have 10 more solutions. Or at the very least, 10 more things I know won't work. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Jake. I learned a lot trying to answer it. Alright. I'll see you next time.